Hi, it's Roni, and welcome to Mixed Media Frenzy. That's where we all use either the same sketch or layout, and today it's a layout, and it's this one here. And I believe it's like a 8.5 by 11 size, maybe. But, I'm going to do a 12 by 12. And mine is going to be a little different. Mine's going to be monochromatic. Um, there's the picture of it on the iPad just in case I'd forget, because a couple times I have forgot to put it up there in the corner. And see all those stencils? I'm going to use them all. I pulled out a piece of craft paper and I'm using it as my background, and I'm going to use all those different inks too, putting different things on here from the stencils. I first just planned on using the bricks, and then I thought, oh, I like that too. Maybe I'll use that instead. And then after about the third time trying to decide which to use, I thought, I'm just going to pull them all out and layer them on here. And I'm using the rusty hinge because I thought, well, it's kind of close to the color of bricks. And it's my favorite, and I'm going to use it quite a bit on this layout. However, I am going to use those other colors for my layers. I'm going to ink things with that rusty hinge because, I do like it. And on the original layout, it shows, well, it's the days of the week. It looks like it has some gesso and some light colored paper maybe layered on there, and then the days of the week. Well, I went ahead and did my bricks going down that side because I figured it needed something there. And I did consider putting some gesso over the top of that. But then I decided I wanted to go with the monochromatic look. And if I'd put my white gesso on top of it, it wouldn't have quite been the same. But I was thinking, as light as my picture is, it'll really show up with a monochromatic look. This is cocoa. It's close to my heart, and it's cocoa. And I was wanting something a little darker. And I think the other one that I used was brown bag, and I already put it up while I was talking. For the chevron stencil, I believe it is tea dye, and then the next one I used was vintage photo, and this one here is chocolate, and it's a little lighter than cocoa. And I first tried to go through the stencil there with my stippling brush. However, it wasn't showing up as good as I like, so I just used a stippling brush by itself. And of course, this is the coffee stain, so I used coffee. The color I actually used was coffee. And I'm just going to put it in different places on there. And I think I'm about done with all my stencils. If I have any oh yeah, I have this one. This is the eye chart. It's the Tim Holtz eye chart, and it does have the days of the week down the left hand side. So I thought, well, what can I use? I can stamp. And then when I was getting the stencils out, I ran across the eye chart. I can use that. I won't use the whole thing in one place, but I can use that. And I am using the coffee again with it just because it's pretty dark. And let's see, what am I going to do with it? Oh, I was going to use that black soot, but I never did. And this is caramel. It's a re-inker, and caramel, so it's not very dark. Well, when it dries, it's not going to be very dark, but it's going to have blotches on the page. And I would have liked them to splatter more, so I think next time I'll try to remember to hold the bottle up higher. But I didn't, because my iPad's sitting right there, so I can look at the sketch and maybe not forget something that I am going to make sure I use on there. I pulled out several of the roller little stamps, and I picked out, like, this is rad, this was awesome, boy time, what a day. And I'm just stamping them different places all over the page, and inking once but stamped 3 times. Anyway, the paper I'm using for the back of my picture, it's really thin. It's from Colorbach, and it said mixed media on the paper. I'd seen somebody use it on YouTube, and they said they really liked it, but they didn't mention how thin it was. And that's what I'm using to back my photo with. I decided if I didn't get started using them, I'd never use them. So, but yeah, I'm backing my photo with it. Because I've had this like year and a half, maybe. Yeah, a while. I pulled out some the jute, and I'm making some loops behind the photo and then just letting them hang out. Yeah, well, hang out might not be the word for it. Stick out from behind the photo, hang out like they're all getting together for a party or something. But no, to stick out. But there are loops and then the strings hanging. And then I thought I did not ink these papers enough, so yeah, I had to put more rusty hinge on them. It shows washi on the original layout, the inspiration one, but it shows it stitched. I'm not going to stitch mine. I'm going to put some on here, but I'm not going to stitch it. And the washi I picked is a wood grain, and I think they have two different ones on the inspiration layout, but I'm using just the one, the same thing for both of my pieces of it. And I did tear them. I can't remember if they tore theirs or not. It's not close enough for me to see. I think they did. I think they did. I'm even inking the torn edges on the washi with the rusty hinge. I pulled out my Tim Holtz film strip. I think it's acetate. I believe it is. And I'm just going to staple it onto my picture. And I just love that stuff. I try not to use it any more than I have to. I save it for the ones I think it looks good on, like grungy ones or vintage ones. But yeah. Oh, and here's my basket with all my die cuts and stamping and fussy cutting in it. And I pulled out quite a few things to use on here. So everything's going to stay monochromatic pretty much. The black is about as out of pocket that I get on here. Uh, I'm just going to try to layer everything down with the picture and then put the picture down. Go ahead and tear it down. And the first thing I put on there was a Tim Holtz. Well, it's like 8 little embossing folders and they all say something. And this one says Good Life. And I did the debossing instead. And then I took ink and inked in the deboss. And on the close-ups, you'll probably be able to tell what I'm talking about in case you don't understand what I'm saying. But I inked in the deboss instead just for, oh, and here, oh, I got to stop and tell you about this. I could not tear that paper on the hexagon. I forgot what I had used on there. And it's some, see, I just gave up and wrinkled it instead. But I'd used some craft paper that was Paper Studio from Hobby Lobby. And usually their stuff is a little thinner. Well, this is not. It's the sturdiest craft paper you ever seen. I hadn't used it in a long time. And when I went to cut it and use it on the dies, I had to run it through several times to get through there. And I'd forgotten how sturdy it is. But yeah, it is very sturdy. And I could not tear it. And I was using brute force. And I still couldn't tear it. So it got wrinkled and left on there as is. I could have probably cut it, but I didn't even think about it. I just gave up and went for the wrinkling instead. Now, the original layout don't have a cluster down on the bottom left, but I wanted one. I thought I needed one, so I am going to put one. I'm going to try to repeat stuff that's up there with the picture and surrounding the picture down there, so it matches a little bit. And of course, everything's going to get inked in the rusty hinge. Yeah, I may never get tired of that. I've had it probably 10 years. Probably since they came out with the distress ink, however long that's been. And it's still my favorite, and I still haven't never had to re-ink it. Of course, I seem to just use it mostly in the fall and here and there through the year, but mostly in the fall. I am putting some jute down there too, and I put some of the Tim Holtz film strip, washi tape, and the other half of my picture wheel. So yeah, I've got several things down there in that little cluster. And oh, this was a ticket that I'd ran through an embossing folder, and I believe it was the weathered I think it's a weathered wood grain. I'm not sure. I bought it and it's Doris and they don't put the name of it on there, and the packaging tore up a long time ago, so don't quote me on that. Oh, and this is my giant roller stamp. And I made it say family farm on it. And so I stamped that, and now I'm going to stamp Biggs. Only Biggs is not what I think it's supposed to be. I've been sitting here looking at this layout, and I think it's Beggs instead of BI. So I'm going to have to get my smash pen out and try to do some little doodling on that I and make it look like an E. But I'm going to check the internet first. I'm not going to just do it. I'm going to check the internet before I go through the trouble of that. Oh, and when I did the bigs, I went and, well, I stamped it kind of wonky. So I covered it up with some of the mesh, and then I had to put a few more pieces around the layout, like, to make it look like it's there on purpose. But yeah, you can't really tell it now that I put mesh on top of it that I messed up. But I went ahead and put it above the family farm, and it looks fine there. Doing my splattering with uh, camel, I think's what it is, uh, Mr. Huey's camo, and I'm inking around the outside of my layout with the rusty hinge, and I'm putting a lot of extra in the corners because I like the extra in the corners. And of course, I got thinking I didn't have enough on here, so I'm adding more. And I added that wheel, and then I also remembered the close to my heart, and they're, I can't remember what they call, mail posts, something posts. And they're a bunch of corrugated pieces that I've had for years. And I have used some out of it, but they really packed that bag full. And I thought, I hope there's enough stars left in there. I want to put at least 3 on my layout. So I inked them up real good. And I'm going to put 3 kind of going up to the right, like diagonal. And I'm going to tuck them in instead of putting them like they're up in the sky or something else. But they're going to be tucked in my clusters instead because they're pretty big. And the center part of that wheel there, whatever, I think it's a gear or wheel or something, it looked like it needed a brad or, something there, but I didn't want to put a brad there. So I put a little more of the twine and made it look like a lasso or something. But yeah, the title's The Climb because they kept climbing up those stairs to slide down the slide. And about the dozenth time around, they've done it about a dozen times, I decided I was going to take a picture of them. After all their work, I thought that needed to be documented. So The Climb is what I decided to make the title. And yeah, they just kept going down it. They were having plenty of fun. But that's it. That's my layout. If you look down there below, you'll see the other gals that are doing the mixed media frenzy this week. And check theirs out, see what they did with the same sketch, but using different stuff. And you can see the original in mine. I mean, I was thinking about it as I was doing this, only I was going just a little bit different route. And I did make my background all the way. I mean, the whole background instead of just part of it. But thank y'all so much for watching. If you leave a comment below, I'll get back with you. And if you like the video and hit a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. And if you are not subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. And those of you already are, thank you so much. But have a happy, scrappy week. Take care and stay safe. Bye.